here we go. This is called the gap up and down, and most of this is all earnings related. Travel Zoo missed. This is what happens to people in the stock market when we get into the earnings season and they hold these things and they report the earnings. This stock is down $19.51. So FFIV got a pretty good haircut last night on its earnings. Tractor Supply, it did as well. These are area of interest is that the Cheesecake Factory, the restaurant there, is gapping down. So Qualcomm had its earnings last night. Xilinx Semiconductor. Intel is down 47 cents. It's not that their earnings was extremely bad, but it was weighing on the Nasdaq futures, but now they've recovered. So as far as the bad news goes is that that FFIV will trade off of the bottom from its miss. Tractor Supply didn't come in very well. Now, on the flip side, on the gap open up, well, IDCC up $7. Express Scripts, Apple's got a small gap. Okay, ISRG, it's still in its gapping mode. Amazon has a slight gap up. And the trade management is that what's been happening, as we said it, is the gap ups, but stocks are selling off at their resistance levels. Even though that the indexes are recovering and going higher in their bull rally trend, individual equities so far in the earnings, the good reports come out and they're selling those overbought gaps, and we've done extremely well with it, meaning that it's not that the earnings are okay on the leaders, but then the leaders, as they gap up, they've all been selling off. So that supports the short theme that we've been doing. So we'll continue to look for the value of stocks. VMware went up to $113. Yesterday's closing price was $105.91, but below its earnings cycle. So that play appears to still be in play. We'll talk about that the S&P futures are up 860 to 1329. Gold is plus $3 at 1600. Dow futures have increased. They're up 72 handles in the Dow 30 stocks, and that's contributed to a lot of the Dow components. Some of the earnings have been coming out. Nasdaq futures are up 10 handles, but you'll know that the gap open up outside of the earnings, like your regular gaps, they're not up as high as they normally are when their futures are up that high. So individual equity prices related to the future prices are not reflecting the higher gaps in the equities as they normally do. So we'll be looking at WIN today. It's been setting up its bottom. It has a small gap today. The bull gap here, which has ran a long ways. Amazon's going to be on deck for its earnings, not today, but coming up. So the trade management is about the same as far as the Nasdaq comp. The amount of earnings that have come out this morning, when we look at them very carefully, we go to the calendar, and we can see the amount of earnings here. I'll put it in the video. These are the amount of earnings that have been coming out today before the open, July 21, 2011. And we have a long list. Some are okay, some are not. And we'll have to go through them. But this is the amount of pre-market earnings that have come out. Some have missed, some haven't. And some are, okay, but we're going to have to get down and dirty in some of these. At Travel Zoo, you can see the miss right here, 30 cents versus 39. On the other hand, Travelers, TRV, they're not doing all that well. So let's just take a look as we go through the morning. We'll take a look at some of the good things. POOL, it looks like they beat by 4 cents. Okay, so we can see right here in a snapshot a lot of what the pre-market earnings are doing in the second week of earnings season. It's very heavily loaded. We'll have to go through the ones that are key. This Blackstone BX, they really beat the street, 63 versus 33. So there are some bright spots. Express Scripts, which is gapping up at 71 versus 69. They like that. Morgan Stanley did okay today with its earnings, as JP Morgan did last week. Goldman never did well. So this is the pre-market, and this is what's driving the futures. Now, after the close today, it's going to be really wild. As far as the amount of companies that are going to report, it's going to set that tone, and we will be all over these in after hours. SanDisk is going to be weak, in my view. PMCS Sierra, things that are related in flash memory and the semiconductor component chain across the board is mixed. Okay, so we'll be watching here after hours today, and we'll look to see what our best choices are. The trade management will remain the same. This morning's gap and the slew of S&P 500 earnings that are coming out are showing something. ITT Educational ESI 285 versus 264. So there are some good bright spots. Landstar Systems LSTR 62 versus 59. And you can see here, I can see where the revs that came in are a little bit better than the prior. So it's a mixed picture in that regard. These are those companies that we just seen in there, some of them that have the gaps. We'll get to the NYSE next. So we are range bound. The S&P indexes will go up and hit their highs in the indexes, but what's happened is that there isn't a lot of buyers there, so they simply drop in price